purpose of this video is to show you the usage of a pH meter. We have two main types of pH meters in our department, and so I'm going to go over both of those. With this first meter, I'm going to go over just, hey, if we have just a general solution that we'd like to take the pH of, what does that process look like, right? Eventually I'm going to put the phone down, so please mind any jostling that occurs, right? So here's the meter, right? This is one of our newer models, right? On here, the main things that you have to be aware of are that once you plug it in, right, the screen turns on automatically, okay? Normally there's an equilibration process that occurs and you'll see this number moving right here, okay? But when it's ready, it'll tell you that it's ready, right? Again, the main control that you have here that you have to worry about is honestly just this button here that says measure, okay? I can even press it now while the electrode is in its storage solution. So the electrode's over here. Like I said, it's in its storage solution. We're going to talk about that in a second. But if you notice that what's happening here is the pH is changing as it measures. Now these pH meters actually take a little bit of time to equilibrate to an actual value. The nice thing is that when it actually does get to a point where it's done equilibrating, it'll stop and everything will freeze, and you'll see that you're set with your final reading. Like, it won't be blinking here anymore, and this number will be stable, right? Practically, and you can talk to your professor about this, if this number right here isn't changing all that much, right, then it's okay to kind of take a reading, okay? So ideally, if we had an infinite amount of time, again, we'd stop and we'd wait until this stopped blinking, but we can kind of see what's going on here, right? We know we're going to be around 7.3 something, okay? So we're taking some time here. We're going up into the high threes. Maybe we'll get to the fours, but you know, we haven't really moved too much from the original value that was there, right? And you can see, okay, so it became ready now, and so you're ready to take the next measurement essentially, okay? That's generally it. Notice that all I did was push this button, okay? So what are you gonna do to actually set this up? So we're just taking a pH measurement of the storage solution now. What if I wanted to take a pH reading of this solution right here? Again, I'm gonna put the phone down. My volume might change, so just kind of bear with it. If you have to change the volume on YouTube as you listen to this, just please do so. Essentially, when we're getting ready, what we have to do is prepare the electrode. And what we need to prepare the electrode is some distilled water and some Kim wipes, okay? This pH meter is nice because there's this arm attached to the actual pH electrode, and I'll show you a different experimental setup if that arm isn't on your pH meter in a bit here. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take the electrode out of its storage solution. I'm going to make sure that the storage solution is placed someplace safe where I'm not going to spill it, okay? I'm going to grab a waste beaker for rinses. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do in preparation to get this electrode ready to make measurements is rinse it off with water. Okay, and just rinse that down into a beaker. Just do a pretty thorough rinse. Okay, now I don't want to put this into, right, the solution I'm trying to take a pH reading of yet, because it could affect the pH. It could change the concentration because there's water and volume that could be added to that system. So the next thing I'm going to do is gently dab the electrode with a Kim wipe. Okay, just try to get off all the excess moisture that you can. Now the electrode's ready to go. Like I said before, this is nice. It has an arm that's going to allow me to kind of just position the electrode into, right, the solution I'm trying to take a pH measurement of, right? So I see that the electrode down there, that glass part between the plastic, between the gray brownish plastic, is definitely submerged. It's definitely surrounded by my solution. So now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit measure. And again, this might take a bit of time. These, like I said, these newer models, they just take a little bit to reach a final value. We'll sit and watch it for a bit, but you kind of already saw what a measurement looks like. Eventually it'll stop, blinking, it'll say ready, and you'll see that your measurement is set. Okay. So that's kind of it for this new model. Like say I just want to, like I prepared a buffer solution and I'd like to see what its pH is. This is a perfectly fine experimental setup to do that. Now often what we have to do though, when we are doing an experiment involving pH changes is we often have to set up a situation where we can perform a titration. And so that's the setup that I'm showing over here, right? It also gives us an opportunity to talk about the other type of pH meter that you'll see here. This pH meter is a little bit older, but the nice thing about it is it takes a quicker amount of time to equilibrate, and it's constantly reading. There's no button really to hit, and I'll kind of show you that by making a change in pH and see what actually happens to the solution, right? So what I've done here is I've prepared an electrode, right? Now this meter does have an arm, but I just wanted to show you some of our meters do not have an arm. So what you would do in those instances, and it's pretty straightforward, you would just use an iron ring stand and a clamp, right? Now for titration, inside that solution, we're going to introduce a strong species, a strong base or a strong acid. And so in terms of your experimental setup, you have to make sure that your electrode, again, is submerged. You also have to make sure that your electrode is away from your magnetic stir bar, right? And you have to be wary of where your burette is because you want the drops to go into solution, right? You don't want them to sort of stick to the side of the container that's holding your reaction or anything like that. You just want to make sure the drops go down. So the volume you read off your burette is the volume that was actually introduced into the reaction mixture, okay? And so you can see that this is a pretty good setup, okay? The magnetic stir bar is agitating solution. It's not spinning too rapidly, right? And it's pretty far away from the electrode. And my burette's in a good spot to actually introduce, like I said, a strong species to this situation, okay? So let's take a look at the pH reading. And again, this is like a continuous reading. So right now it reads 8.43. See how well I can do this with one hand. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna introduce a strong base via dropper, just like I said, just for the purposes of demonstration. I'm gonna introduce a strong base right to this system. Just gonna kind of overdo it. When you do a titration, you normally go drop by drop, right? But the reason I wanted to show this is because now we can come over here. Oh wow, I really overdid it, but you can see what's happening. I've added base to this system, and so what happens is the pH is going up, okay? Now it's going way up. Like I said, when you do a titration, you're gonna do it like drop by drop, and you're not gonna see these dramatic changes. But notice with this type of pH meter, I didn't have to hit measure. It just kind of goes and finds a value. And again, the same kind of principle applies here, right? Notice it's still measuring, and you can see that by the movement of the actual numbers here and also these blinking objects that are there. But this last digit isn't really changing that much, especially if you're crunched for time, right? If you hit a value that sticks around for a few seconds, right? You can even count like 1, 2, 3. I might even be overdoing it, but you know what I mean? Like if it sticks around for a little bit, that's okay to write down in your book as the actual pH reading for that solution at that instance of your titration, okay? And that's really it in terms of the pH meters that we have to use here, okay? This one's still equilibrating, and again, so this is gonna take some time, so just be wary of that. Once you're done though, and I guess I'll show you, just kind of reverse the process associated with you know, getting the electrode into the solution. Like I said, it's just literally a reversal, so we're gonna take it out, right, of the solution that we're measuring. We're gonna get our water ready, right, rinse it down into our rinse container. Ooh, actually get the rinses in the container. Take the electrode, dab it gently with Kim wipes or with a Kim wipe so that we don't contaminate the storage solution at all. And then just make sure that the storage solution is still inside and reintroduce the electrode into the storage solution. This one involves like a screw cap. Some of them have like a more of a plunger type cap. Oh yeah, I guess you can't really see me spinning it. But yeah, all you kind of do is spin it in the opposite direction that you spun it when you actually were starting your experiment. Okay. So once you're done, then the last thing to do, right, is just to turn your pH meter off. It's going to be okay, really, just to unplug it, but if we wanted to, we could hit that power button. And now, just to make sure everything's done, we'll unplug the meter. Okay, so that's it. Just wanted to give you a brief rundown of the types of meters that we have, what you expect to see, the little intricacies of taking a measurement, and to show you an experimental setup that involved not only just sort of a pH electrode introduced to a solution, but a titration setup where you had a burette that also had to be accounted for in a magnetic stir bar. Okay. As always, if you have any questions, please reach out to your professor, or you can reach out to me. And again, just any questions, let us know.